Darragh O'Brien.
I have a couple of questions just really on this. I'm assuming, Minister, that the approach being taken by the Irish Government here is consistent with our EU colleagues in the remaining EU 26 other member states in relation to this. So I think that's something that I think you could address here. I understand the logic in it. It is a shame that I think all of us have said that, and certainly from my own party, that's a pro-EU party and has been pro the European Union. Regret the fact that Britain is leaving the European Union, but with leaving and therefore not retaining EU citizenship, it to me makes sense then that those who are not EU citizens don't vote for the EU institutions. The irony is not lost on me is that a party here who's anti-EU is actually arguing for votes for citizens whose country have voted to leave the EU, for them to vote for institutions that they've decided themselves to leave, and a Brexit campaign that was actually supported by Deputy Murphy and his colleagues. So with that comes consequences. But what I want to ensure is that our approach here is consistent with all other EU countries, that there's no unintended consequence with regard to EU citizens who are living outside of the EU, and Irish citizens in the north in particular who could reside here will not be affected, I'm certain, by this change. And it is correct to say that in elections that we hold in this country, there isn't universal franchise. All people resident in this country don't vote in all elections and don't vote in all referenda. There are categories of voters, and we know that. So to say that the starting point is, that everyone should have a say in absolutely everything is not actually correct, and is not the case, and is not the legal case that we have here. So, Minister, if you could clarify that our approach here is consistent with the remaining EU member states. Obviously, we all hope, even at this late stage, well, I certainly do, I can't say that we all do, because certain parties here welcome Brexit and welcome the fact that Brexit happened. So I think there is a contradiction in the arguments that have been made by Deputy Murphy and his colleagues in arguing for retention of rights to an institution that you don't actually support at all. But even at this late stage, I would hope that these, should Britain remain obviously within the European Union, the changes made in this bill and that are suspended, and the status quo as it is right now today actually remains.